Two of our longtime It's Your Call analysts disagree on torture, photos of a dead bin Laden, and whether to trust Pakistan. Their debate on the fallout from bin Laden's death starts right now. It has been a couple of weeks since U.S. forces took out America's #1 enemy, but his death has sparked debates that will continue well into the future. Was it right to kill him instead of capturing him? Should photographs of his dead body have been released to the world? And if torture was used to find his location, was that acceptable? A debate on those issues and more is just ahead here on It's Your Call. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lynn Doyle, and right off the top, I'd like to invite you to join in this debate by sharing your opinions on the questions I just posed. You can email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net, and we'll share some of your thoughts later in the show. First, though, two of our longtime analysts here on It's Your Call are facing off on those issues and more. You know them well. Edward Trzanski is a national security, intelligence, and political analyst at LaSalle University and a senior fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. He's taking on Jan Ting, who is a professor of law at Temple University Beasley School of Law. He, too, is a senior fellow with the Foreign Policy Research Institute. Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's great to have both of you back with us.
Likewise. Good to be back.
Okay, so I have questions I want to pose to you, and in rapid style, I want you to give me a yay or a nay, and then we'll get into the debate in just a minute. You good for that? Okay. Should we have captured or killed bin Laden?
Kill.
Kill. And how about you, Jan?
Well, he would have been a great intelligence asset, but I don't mind that he's dead, and I would not be willing to risk the life of one American to take him alive.
Okay. How about the photographs once he was killed? Yay or nay in releasing them to the world?
I think the president made the right decision on the photos. There's no need to release them now. We can make that decision. We can revisit that 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road.
We're revisiting it right now. What do you think, Ed?
I would have called journalists in to take photos, much as we did with Uday and Qusay Hussein. It was important to tear down the myth of those two, much as it is him.
And how about the U.S. today? Safer with bin Laden dead or still at peril?
Still at peril because he largely had receded into the background. He really was not operationally in control. And this problem has metastasized and morphed into different ways.
Still at peril, but safer, significantly safer, because the message has gone out to the world that anyone who's contemplating harming the United States, we are going to get you however long it takes.
Okay, well, it took a long 10 years. I want to know what you think about it and whether you think that the use of enhanced interrogation or torture, if it was in fact used to find his location, if that was acceptable. And that's going to be the first question that I'm going to pose to Ed right now. Do you think enhanced interrogation techniques were warranted in finding bin Laden?
They're an absolutely critical part of our toolkit. Doesn't mean we use them frequently. And there is disagreement as to whether some piece of information was either acquired or, more importantly, whether that technique was used to break someone down over time. So it's part of the toolkit. You don't use it frequently. In fact, we only used waterboarding 3 times. But remember this, if you're going to call it torture, we do it every day to our own troops to train them so that they know what to expect.
Regardless of what you call it, it's a mistake. After 9/11, the country was frightened. We didn't know what we were up against, and so we were willing to consider enhanced interrogation or whatever you want to call it. But I think times change. The country's strong. We've proven that in tracking this terrorist down and dispatching him, and I don't think there's any need to take on the moral conundrum over this enhanced interrogation. We're better off saying we don't do that.
But you don't know over time what kind of threats you're going to face, which is why I say it's only for rare instances, but to say never ever under any circumstance, I think precludes the possibility that you'll do something someday that is going to be absolutely critical to stop an attack.
How do you know when the right situation to use enhanced interrogation or torture, as some people might call it? How do you know when the situation warrants it and when it's right?
We'll go back to what we know about this particular case, where the CIA came into the Department of Justice and said, look, we do know other plots are underway. We do know that there are critical pieces of information that these men are likely to have, and there's no way to make them talk so that we can act soon enough. When those data points put themselves together, you have a reasonable idea.
I think it's an overstatement to say that there's no other way to get these people to talk. I mean, there are other ways. We have to try them. They take more time, and I just think the country would be better off if we had a clear position on torture and enhanced interrogation, that we don't do it.
So
let's do a
thought experiment. All right, they're always dangerous, but let's try one. If you have somebody, you know they know where the bomb is, you know a lot of people are going to die, the only way to get the information is to have them talk. You know you will get them to talk, you know the information will pan out or won't pan out. Do you do it, yes or no? Now, usually what you hear back is, well, they can give bad information or else it won't. Well, yes, all of that's a possibility. But if you have nothing, you are down to the thin reed, the clock is out, and you have to do it. Do you try, or do you say, too bad, we didn't have the time, we'll let the attack go on?
I think there are other ways of extracting the information. And
what if you don't have the time?
And I think, as the point that you make is right, that you cannot rely on information that's extracted through torture or enhanced interrogation.
Sometimes it's all you have.
It's inherently
unreliable.
Only thing you have? It's inherently unreliable. Why engage in this tactic?
All right, let me ask you a question. If you knew, but let's presume you knew that you would do it and it would work. Would you do it, yes or no?
I think there are other ways. You have to consider, are there other ways to get the information?
Jan won't answer the question because the answer is yes.
You're trying to set up a hypothetical for which there's no other possible answer. And I'm saying that's...
Oh, no, yeah, you could say no. You could say, as a moral proposition, never ever in my name.
That's a false hypothetical. I think the country is better off saying, never ever in our name. I think we are in a better position in terms of our relationship with the world, in terms of waging the war on terror, in terms of ultimately winning. I think that's the better way to go.
Right. Jan, there's a lot of suppositions in what you've given. I asked a very direct question. If you knew it, would you do it? And you're telling me you won't.
It's a ridiculous hypothetical.
No, it's a real one.
I reject your
I know you reject it, but it's a good one.
Yeah. Well, you've heard from them. We'd like to hear from you. If you want to email me and tell me your thoughts, go ahead and do that. It's lynn@lynndoyle.net. Now, you know already there are those who adopt that conspiracy theory who say, we don't really know that he was killed. How do we know? Why was there such a rapid disposal of his body? Experts will say it was because it's in the Muslim tradition and they were trying to show respect for the dead. Why do you think the president made the decision not to release the photographs?
Well, in part because releasing the photographs would prove nothing.
It would prove he was dead.
No, it would not. In the age of Photoshop, you know that the skeptics out there are going to say, oh, that was obviously a Photoshopped photo. It proves nothing. So I think you accomplish nothing. And there's a downside to releasing the photos that I think the president was legitimately concerned about, and that is it's going to set off anti-American feeling, and you know there's going to be some intensity of the opposition.
There's not enough anti-American sentiment already?
There is less than there would be, I think, if we release these photos. Why take that risk when there's no upside to doing it? You're not going to convince anyone with those photos who's not already convinced.
Here's the upside, I think, and I'll go to something Jan said about Photoshop and all of that. I think that's a very legitimate point, which is why when we got Uday and Qusay, Saddam's two murderous sons, we brought in journalists, said, there they are, you take your photos. Those are, there they are. People said, yep, that's them. And what you do, why do it? Because you've got to tear down this myth of the guy in the flowing robes with the Quran and the AK-47.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to take a quick break, but I am going to ask you what you think about photos of a dead bin Laden. Do you think they should have been released? We're going to find out your thoughts and more of our debate here when It's Your Call continues.